Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
This race, it's as American as Uncle Sam deadlifting 350 while drinking a Busch Light outside of his camper in a national park. It's as American as driving a Chevy to the levee. It's as American as the black number 3 rattling Terry's cage. It's the night race at Bristol, and it's a cutoff race at the NASCAR playoffs. The Bass Pro Shops NRA Night Race, September 18th, Bristol Motor Speedway. Get your tickets before they are gone. It's Bristol, baby. Can I get a hell yeah?
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for being here, joining us at Apex Racing TV for the East Coast Thunder eSports Summer Showdown, presented by Bristol Motor Speedway. This is your tour modifieds at Bristol Motor Speedway. We've definitely got a great show in store for you tonight. We've just got some practice going on right now. Drivers on track getting a sense of what it's going to be like. It's a bit of a different structure if you've joined us for East Coast Thunder races here on Apex Racing TV in the past. This year we're going with a heat racing format. So we're going to see some number of heats, greater than 1 and less than 5. It's not yet determined because it depends on the number of drivers who sign up to race. But we'll see some 20-lap heats. We'll see a 10-lap consolation race that'll have one driver transfer through to the feature, and then we'll get the 100-lap main event. So my name's Tyler Newitt. I am joined here by Scott Rankin in the commentary booth and Marco Barbanero working the cameras and everything else behind the scenes as always. Scott, it's going to be fast and furious tonight. Just looking at the lap times drivers are setting in practice at the moment, sub 15 seconds for the entire field. That 100 laps is going to go by pretty quick.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, we were just doing some comparisons just before we went live as well. I mean, Cup cars are getting around here in much the same sort of time, so it's going to be quick, it's going to be furious, and heat racing format as well. I mean, look, to be perfectly honest, I'm a big fan of Bristol. There's a lot of people out there that aren't a big fan of Bristol. It's a difficult track to drive. It's not as easy as you might think, particularly with the tight nature of it. You can actually see Harold Rothery slaps the wall there. There are a couple of little tricks and things you can do to get around here a little bit quicker and a little bit stabler. I mean, you know, a couple things to note tonight as well. In that feature, we're going to have 2 tire sets. So it's the one, I believe, stapled onto the car, and then one spare sitting on pit road. So you're looking at potentially 50 laps the distance. When you come down, when you take that extra set of tires, we're not going to overly be pushing too hard on tires. So I wouldn't expect drivers to be taking a fresh set and taking the track position penalty until well deep into the feature when they really want that fresh set of tires once it's really beat up. So a few different options tonight. I think it's going to be a great night of racing, all things told. It's not often you see the modifieds out here on track, and a great opportunity to see them at you know, Bristol, the last great Coliseum.
Yeah, absolutely right, Scott, and we're going to talk a lot about the tire situation for sure. As you mentioned, you're exactly right. It's the set you've got on the car for the start of the feature race, and then the one more set that you can pick up in a pit stop. Similar to, I believe, the situation last year. And actually, as far as the racing goes, Bristol is really an excellent track for these modifieds. You're going to see that groove move throughout the race, and vary depending on the tire wear level that these drivers are on. You know, at the start of the race, it's definitely quickest, I think, and we'll see if I'm right about this, but I think it's quickest to see the line that Brian Soanes is using right now, right along the bottom. Just keep it pinned down. These modifieds have an insane amount of grip. I mean, look at the width of the tires there. It just kind of gives you a hint as to how much grip these cars put on the racetrack. But as those tires wear, and as we get kind of towards the middle section and later stages of the race, I think you're going to start to see drivers able to make moves on that high line and able to make something happen up there. The other point you briefly touched on there, Scott, is it's going to be a race of survival for sure. It's just a fact of the matter. Even in real life, Bristol is known for the wrecks that can happen. And in many ways, a lot of the wrecks are not self-clearing like they are at other tracks, and you get situations where you get the whole field caught up in wrecks. So we certainly hope a good number of the drivers who have signed up to race today make it to the end of that feature, but it's not something I would place my bets on if I was a betting man, Scott. I think we're going to see a much slimmer field by the end of the 100 laps than we see at the start.
Well, normally, I mean, I think you touched on a good point there about keeping the car clean and whatnot. I mean, normally the terminology is when you come into an oval track is you start out with a clean car, gets a bit banged up, it becomes a modified. Well, they're starting with modifieds tonight, so if that's any indication. And you mentioned it, the front tire wear, but that's also a big concern because the bigger, the fatter the tires, the more rubber that they lay down, but also the more they scrub across the surface. If you get those inputs slightly wrong, the more heat they generate. Well, if you've got a larger surface, it's making a larger impact, a larger impression on the track. That's more heat that's being generated and distributed. But one of the bigger factors is that the tire is bigger, so it will take a little bit longer to heat up. So once it does heat up, forget it. You're not going to cool that thing down. It is going to stay overheated. That's just the nature of the beast. Take a ride on board here with Brian Soanes trying to run that bottom line. Look at the speed that he's trying to maximize, get all the way down there. 14.636, just crossed the line that time by. So he's right up there. He's only 6 1,000ths off of the pace there of William Kruska. So drivers are very, very compact in terms of their overall lap time. And if you have a look, 1/10 of a second covers first all the way down to about 10th position. So the pace within the field is very close together.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a pretty tight grid here. Just speculating too, talking about tire wear as we are, you wonder if a strategy isn't just to do what you can to save the tire, run that high line early, maybe scrub a little less, like you were saying, Scott. Those tires are scrubbing across the track. The higher up you go on this banked oval, the less they're going to scrub. So maybe that's an option for some of these drivers to save a little bit. Or maybe if you're so concerned about the way this race is going to shake out, maybe you just hang at the back a little bit. You lift a little earlier than you might normally. You take lines that kind of get you through cleanly and safely, and make it to the end of the race. And then, if you get a late caution, say 15, 20 laps to go, you bolt on your fresh set of tires and you make a run for it. I think that's definitely something we could shake out. I mean, racers are racers, and the chances of someone, waiting 80 laps at Bristol to make something happen, it's not what they'd want to be doing. I don't think that's anybody's first strategy, but maybe someone a bit on the fringes of that top group in terms of speed, as you mentioned, all right, bunched together up there. Let's take a run through. Sorry, what were you going to say, Scott?
I was going to say, you say that, but like it's the age-old saying that we've all heard. I mean, in order to finish first you have to finish. And there's a lot of guys out here tonight. They're going to be okay. There's some opportunities that present themselves throughout this race, but you've also got to be there to take those opportunities. I think the saying for the night is going to be pick your battles. Not every battle is worth fighting.
You're absolutely right, Scott. Just going to give a run through of our practice order as it stands at the moment. Billy Kruska currently sits atop the times with a 14:32. Billy is the organizer of the East Coast Thunder eSports, so good to see him with some quick laps in already. Brian Soanes, who we were riding on board with a little earlier, sits second with a 14:37. Brad Carpenter not far off him, a 14:38. Ken Zeems in turn with a 14:39. Then instead of 1/100th back, Keaton Tripp is 0/100ths back, also on a 14:39. Kenny Zeems, so we've got a Ken Zeems and a Kenny Zeems, which I'm sure will not make our lives difficult at all tonight. Ken is on a 14:39 and Kenny is on a 14:40. So Kenny's got to find that extra 100th to catch up to Ken. Rusty Modesty sits behind them on a 14:42. Behind Rusty is Harold Rothery, who we saw a little earlier, sitting at a 14:44. And then it's another 100th back to Dave Stinson on a 14:45 as we see him clobber the wall there. Not going to want to do that in the feature is Dave. Behind Dave is Russell Peets on a 14:49. Ryan Grassi, 14:51. Bill Molefield, 14:51. Cliff Mullins, 14:55. Patrick Hosier on a 14:67. And James Sylvester behind him on a 14:79. The entirety of the field is covered within half a second here in practice, which is just tremendous. Definitely going to see some close racing, but by that same token, Scott, close racing opens you up to trouble, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and look, I mean, it's something that I like to talk about a lot is for every car-to-car interaction, there is a very small percentage chance that, obviously reduced by good driving, that you will end up in an accident. That is just a fact, right? You can't avoid every accident. You're always going to end up in something throughout the course of your racing career. It's not possible to avoid everything. So the more car-to-car interactions there are, the more chances that there are for wrecks to be happening, and that's why you see cautions breed cautions. That it's for that exact reason. What's the period of time we have the most car-to-car interactions? Restarts and the laps thereafter. So look, I mean, ultimately there's a lot of guys out there, particularly that are going to be stuck in the mid pack for bulk portions of the race. Their responsibility is to, again, focus on getting to the end. Keaton Tripp over on his lid, rolling down the track. Self-cleaning track, that's an important fact to note as well. Cars will slide towards the bottom of the racing circuit with the nature of the banking here at Bristol. So you've got to make sure that when you're planning to avoid a wreck, probably the high lane's the way to go.
Absolutely. Well, we've just got a little bit of time left in practice. So while these guys run their laps, I just want to run you through what we've got coming up on Apex Racing TV. We've got a lot of racing coming your way this upcoming week. Obviously, first and foremost, the East Coast Thunder eSports Summer Showdown, which is going to go green here for heat racing in about 8 minutes. But other stuff we have in the lineup for you: Friday night, UK time. Of course, that'd be Friday afternoon here in the US. The Apex Racing League Super Trucks Championship returns for round 3 at Alton Park. If you haven't checked that series out yet, please do so. It is tremendous fun to watch, and I have to believe there will be some excellent driving lines at Alton, if you catch my drift. Radical Racing Challenge round 11 at Suzuka is coming your way also on Friday night UK, Friday afternoon US. Also on Saturday, we have the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 VRS Super Series. That's a mouthful. Round 5 at Red Bull Ring. That will be followed up on Saturday by the Formula 3.5 Championship round 11 at Spa-Francorchamps. That's it for Saturday. Sunday, we have the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship round 9 at Daytona. Always fun racing around the high banks. Get to see the GT cars there. Sunday as well, we have the SRF Weekend Warriors round 11 at Lime Rock Park. That'll be Sunday night UK, Sunday afternoon US. Then we have the IGP Fun F3 VRS Series round 11 also at Red Bull Ring on Sunday. And that will be Sunday evening in the UK, Sunday afternoon in the US. Monday we have the Cross Series League Racing. I believe it's the final round of the dirt sprint cars from Knoxville, presented by Nexus Fabrication. That series has been tremendous so far. I've gotten to call a few of those races, so definitely tune in for that one. Tuesday, we've got the Rickmatech Classic Sprint Series. That is round 6 and 7 from Donington Park. Also Tuesday, we have the Apex Racing League GT3 Pro Trophy. So you get to see the pros do what they do best, which is drive GT3 cars really, really fast, and that'll be at Montreal. Finally, next Wednesday, we've got the Ray eSports Racing League Round 5 at VIR. Worth a tune in. So that's everything coming your way here on Apex Racing TV in the next week or so. But right now, we've got modifieds on track at Bristol. About 5 minutes left in qualifying. You see Harold Rothery getting up into the wall there. That car got a little bent out of shape, and he's headed for the pit lane. Brad Carpenter turning some laps. He currently sits 5th on the board. Not sure if there have been any improvements. There have. Zach Edwards has matched Billy Kruska's time at a 14:32. Kenny Zeems has improved, jumped ahead of Ken Zeems. Kenny now on a 14:34. Brian Zones has dropped down to 4th with his time still a 14:37. Brad Carpenter still in behind him. There is Kenny Zeems on track. Don't know if Ken Zeems' car looks similar or not. That would be one way to help tell them apart. But Kenny is in the 15, and I'm showing Ken in the 90. So at least the numbers are different enough that we should be able to pick them out there. But we have a few more drivers signing up, which is great. Showing 20 drivers currently loaded into the session, though some of them have not set times yet. Looks like Matt Zaccardo, Ray Fadaruso, and Thomas Frisch have joined the fray, and Ray has set a time now of 14:50 to go 14th. So quite a few drivers late to the going, but they'll have heat races and consolation races to get their feet wet. Scott, I almost wonder if it's going to be a benefit to some of the drivers who kind of are on the fringes of qualifying for the feature in their heat races to get that extra lap time in the the heat races and the feature races just to get more laps under the belt, figure out where the track is right now. You know, is that high line a viable line at the start of this race, or do you need to be right down at the bottom?
Yeah, and I agree with it. And one of the other benefits that actually comes through of extended heat racing and consolations is that we can, you know, by the time we get around to that feature, that the line is going to be, you know, a little bit worn in. It's going to be, you know, set up. So, look, yeah, I mean, if you're on the fringe, any more track time that you can generate for yourself in any format is always beneficial. You know, so a lot of these guys out here, not 100% comfortable in themselves yet. But having said that, they're still only 0.4 of a second off the pace. Like, from top to bottom, it's like 4.5 tenths that covers the entire field. Currently our first place time is like 1,000th of a second. Is the difference between P1 and P2. It's, to be perfectly honest with you, it's going to be an incredibly close race, and I think you've got to be able to win this thing tonight. You've got to find a way to differentiate yourself from the pack. What we normally see in terms of oval racing is you differentiate yourself from the pack in terms of your pit lane strategy, in terms of your tire wear. Is somebody going to have to be the pioneer up on that high line? I don't know. I can't tell you, to be perfectly honest, because the runs they're going to generate are going to be, yes, a lot stronger, but I don't necessarily think the time that they're going to gain up there is going to outweigh the bottom line at this stage. But we've got a long time to wear this track in and a long time to settle in, so a long night ahead of us.
Well, and something we've seen before, too, is that it may not be the case that the top line is viable in a battle for the lead at any point, but with how stacked this field is and how close everybody is in time, you're going to find yourself at some point on the inside line having to check up more than you want to because you're just in a line of cars, and that's really when that top line can move you forward. And I think that's going to be what's interesting to see here, is if those drivers... it's going to take a driver who's good at reading the situation as it unfolds around them, reading the race, kind of that situational awareness that comes with being a good racing driver. Just, you know, being able to understand how the entire scene is unfolding around you and take advantage of it. So definitely going to be very interesting to watch. Part of the beauty of fixed setup racing as well. You know, all of these drivers are competing on an equal playing field. There's nobody who is, you know, advantaged by having spent hours and hours perfecting their trick setup. Everybody is running the same deal, so that'll be good to see. Was able to catch a little bit of the drivers' meeting and heard Billy tell everybody that there are going to be wave arounds for everybody who is a lap down on every caution. You will get one lap back. So. Good way to kind of keep the number of cars on the lead lap a little higher than would otherwise be the case, because there's certainly going to be some drivers who get stuck a lap down.
And through no fault of their own, by and large. I mean, yeah, if you have a look at the pace differential, 4.5 tenths of a second between the top time and the bottom time, that may change as the run goes on. That may tend itself towards the guys that are at the tail end of the pack that are looking after their tires a little bit more. You know, so even though it may be 4.5 tenths at the start of a run, it could blow out. It could be 7.5 tenths of a second throughout the run. That's only going to take 14 laps for them then to be caught up to the lead pack, barring any mistakes as well that take another chunk out of that time period. So look, I think it's going to be perfectly honest, you don't ever come to Bristol and expect a clean race because the racing is so tight, the racing is so close together. Cautions are going to play a big factor, and restarts. If there's cautions, you have got to be good on the restart. You've got to be good. You've got to be ready to go. You've got to be able to fire off just like you do in qualifying.
Absolutely, and it is qualifying time. It's 2 laps for everybody to set. We will see definitely some drivers playing the waiting game here. But Zach Edwards is out on track. He's going to set his 2 lap. A number of drivers already on track as well. James Sylvester, Russell Peets, Ken Zeems, Brad Carpenter, Bill Mofield, Ryan Grassi, Keith Tripp, Rusty Modesty, Dave Stinson, Thomas Frisch are all on track at the moment. And more drivers joining them at every second. Ryan Grassi, the first to set a time. Zach Edwards jumps to the top spot. Thomas Frisch, Brad Carpenter both insert themselves between those two. James Sylvester, Dave Stinson, 5th and 6th of the 6 drivers who have set times. Now Bill Mulfield jumps into 5th. Billy Kruska, who was up top in practice, now doing his qualifying run. So far, though, no one able to unseat Zach Edwards. We'll see if some of those drivers who are waiting. Billy Kruska goes to the top. So just as he did in practice, Billy Kruska able to set that 1-lap pace by 6/100ths over Zach Edwards. Ooh, he's not going to set a second lap, though. He clobbers the wall coming out of 3, I think. And here is Kenny Ziem, one of 5 drivers who have not set a lap time yet. Patrick Hosier is going to be on the board in a moment. Ken Ziems goes to 5th on his second lap. Hosier goes to 13th with his first lap done. Ray Fadaruso goes 12th. We're on board with Kenny Ziems, Brian Kramer, and Brian Soanes, both also on track.
Just like to point out from that initial qualifying run that we did actually see from the double arrow of Edwards there, he was fighting that car quite aggressively. If you actually watch Kenny Ziems, look how smooth he is on all of his inputs. It's, oh, well, I said that, and then immediately watching his inputs, he's fighting that wheel a little bit. So looking for a smooth initial input here, that's better. That's just about perfect. It's because he's slowing down.
His cooldown lap. Yeah, yeah. Kenny hooked the apron there. He was being quite smooth. You're right, but just caught the apron in 3, which can definitely help the car turn. So it's not necessarily a bad strategy, but you have to be ready to wrangle. You talk about smoothness, though. It seems that the wild ride Zach Edwards was on was enough to top Kenny Ziem, as he finds himself 2nd on the board. Only Billy Kruska able to beat his time that he set early on as we were watching. So just waiting on the final stages of qualifying to tick down. We'll get you those results.
We're only going to have 2 heats, by the way?
Yes, we are. Yep. So here is the grid for heat number 1. It's Billy Kruska, Kenny Ziems, Harold Rothery, Keaton Tripp, Brad Carpenter, Rusty Modesty, Ryan Grassi, Bill Mulfield, Matt Zaccardo, and James Sylvester. So of these 10 drivers, 4 will be going directly to the feature. 4 more from Heat 2 will be going to the feature. Then we'll have our C main. 4 of those drivers will go to the B main. And I believe one of them will go to the feature, although I'll have to double check on that. That might change depending on how these heats work out. Just have to wait and see on that one.
At least you're more intelligent about how that's all working. See, I was just thought they just picked like drivers at random. And they're like, yeah, you're good enough. You go on.
It's always tricky when you know, they set them up to scale depending on the number of drivers, which is great. But it makes our lives tricky because we don't know until the very moment that the first heat starts what the structure is going to be, other than the fact that there are going to be heats. So 2 heats is what it's going to be. 4 drivers from each going directly to the feature race. So beyond that, we'll have to wait and see. But Billy Kruska will lead the field to green here. Kenny Ziems on his outside. And behind them, Harold Rothery, Keaton Tripp looking to make something happen. Those are the 4 in at the moment. Lights are out on the pace car, but he is just headed down the backstretch now. And we'll duck into pit lane once he gets out of turn 3. And it'll be up to Billy on when to jump.
Guys, from that second heat, will be watching this initial start with a lot of heavy focus, particularly cars in the mid-pack, and here we go.
Absolutely, Billy is on it. He got a great jump on Kenny Ziems, and they're nearly 3 wide for second. Kenny did not get a good start at all. And Harold Rothery had to back out of it and had a big wiggle coming off of turn 2 there. Keeps the car under him and holds on to that 4th place, which will transfer him to the main. Brad Carpenter, though, is looking to hunt him down. These heats will be pretty rapid fire, 20 laps apiece, as Rothery looks to make a move on Keaton Tripp. Not a move he needs to make. He's currently in a good position for the feature, but always want to be moving forward and keep yourself safe. Nice to have a buffer as well.
Well, it's also grid spots in that feature as well. That's an important aspect of it that doesn't get discussed a lot. This is for positioning on the inside lines. P1 will be P1 on the inside line, P2 on the inside line, etc. through the qualifying positions.
Yep, definitely a factor here as we ride on board with Brad Carpenter. He's closed the gap a little bit to Harold Rothery. It seems as though Keaton Tripp just holding Rothery up a slight bit, but Carpenter not in a position to make a move yet. As we expected, everybody rim riding on the bottom, which is the opposite of rim riding, I realized as I said it. But everyone is riding the bottom of the track here. And I'd imagine will be, whoa, Kenny caught the apron there, had a big wiggle. I don't know if we can get a replay of that save, but that was massively important for Kenny Zeems, and he is still hugging that apron tight as Billy gets up almost into the wall, maybe into the wall. But fierce action right now at the front of the field. No moves being made, but clearly these cars are a handful, and these drivers are doing everything they can just to keep them under control as it stands at the moment.
Coming up on the halfway mark now to 8 laps done, sorry, about to be 8 laps done. So now it's about those guys that are sitting 5th and 6th. They've got to get hungry. So I'm looking at Brad Carpenter, Ryan Grassi. If they want to get an automatic qualification, they don't want to have to take the long transition through all the C and B mains to make their way across into the feature. They've got to get aggressive and make moves now. And if you keep your eyes on Ryan, I think he's doing just that.
Ooh, that was a big check up there from the 05 of Bill Molefield. Matt Zaccardo had to get out of it to avoid running into him there. But they continue on. Yeah, this is the battle kind of in the back of the pack here. Ryan Grassi, Bill Molefield, Matt Zaccardo, James Sylvester. But these guys are plenty quick. They're just, you know, by virtue of the fact that they're fighting with each other, as there's a slide from Zaccardo and sets up a run to the inside. That was impressive work there from Matt Zaccardo. Wasn't able to make it stick on the inside, but you know, you can tell these guys are not slouches behind the wheel by any stretch. They're just starting to lose touch because of the battling that's going on between them, as we see Brad Carpenter from the back of Harold Rothery's car. And Brad hasn't been able to make anything happen yet. With 8 laps to go, time is ticking. He's going to have to do something quickly here. And just a little lower line is Brad Carpenter running compared to Harold Rothery. So don't know if Rothery's tires are starting to fade. Maybe he just doesn't feel as confident in the setup. Obviously both running the same setup here. Now Rothery gets right down to the inside. He needs to defend here, as there was, a little touch of the bull bars perhaps between Carpenter and Rothery. Now Carpenter's got the preferred line. Can he make the pass stick? So far, Rothery able to sail around the outside, and in fact, he's got the overlap cleared. So good effort there by Rothery to recover after the contact and hang on to that 4th spot as it stands at the moment, coming to 5 to go.
Yeah, so by and large, it looks like it's very tricky to pass. I mean, if you have a look at Brad Carpenter, this is the guy that needs to make the move if he wants to get an automatic transfer slot. And he hasn't been able to do it just purely because of the nature. The line's not there a little bit higher up, can't build the run. This is what he's got to do. See how he backed up the corner a little bit there, got a little bit lower in the mid corner. That means he's straight lining it on exit. That's how he's going to build the run. Then he's going to show the nose before he gets into the corner to be able to set up the overtake. It's got to be picture perfect. And for minor line, the guy on the outside is going to make a mistake as well.
Absolutely. It just doesn't seem like the tires are going to be worn enough to open that second groove up, other than in defense. You know, if you're forced out there, we've seen Rothery able to make it stick. But as far as making a pass happen on the outside, the tire's too good on the inside there to make that happen. But there's Billy Cruz. He's already taken the white flag. I think he's rounding turn 4 now, coming across the line to win heat number 1. And Harold Rothery will be in your final transfer spot from this heat. Brad Carpenter not quite able to make it happen, but he'll be starting on the pole in the first consolation race.
Let's heat number 1 done and dusted. Your finishing order was Billy Kruzka, Zach Edwards.
Billy Kruzka, Kenny Zeems, Keaton Tripp, Harold Rothery, Brad Carpenter, Rusty Modest, Ryan Grassi, Matt Zaccardo, Bill Molefield, James Sylvester.
I was looking at something else. I don't know what I was looking at, but there was something there.
It does get tricky with all the names bouncing around. But this is heat number 2. The starting order on your screen now. Zach Edwards will lead Thomas Frisch to the green. Ken Ziems starts 3rd, Brian Soanes 4th, Russell Peets 5th, Cliff Mullins in 6th, Ray Fadaruso in 7th, Patrick Hosier in 8th, Dave Stinson in 9th, and Brian Kramer in 10th.
So an interesting battle right throughout heat number 1. I mean, Kruska seemed to just have it all his own way, and I mean, in terms of qualifying times, Kenny Ziems was only 200ths of a second off of him, 23 thousandths if you want to get specific. This heat, pole time for Zach Edwards, 14.319, P2, 14.470, so there's a little bit more of a margin there. We'll see if that actually manages to equate to something.
Yes, we will. First pace lap done. One more until these drivers are off and running for 20 laps of racing. Edwards surely was watching what Billy Kruska did in race number 1. Knows how to get the jump on the inside, but by the same token, I'm sure Thomas Frisch was watching as well and isn't going to be caught sleeping like we saw in race number 1. The only issue, of course, a little easier to spin those tires on the high line. That's what Frisch is going to have to watch out for. I'm pretty sure that's what happened in heat number 1 as well to the driver on the outside. Just spun up the tires a little bit. So Frisch is going to want to get it pointed in the right direction as quick as he can. But they round turn 4 now. Pace car's off and Edwards is gone. Fantastic jump for Zach Edwards. Frisch didn't spin the tires but seemed to be caught napping just a little bit. They're side by side still for second. Looks like Ziems is going to prevail, and he dives to the inside as Frisch got into the wall. There's a slight nudge there, wheel to wheel. Everyone keeps going the right direction, but that was hairy between Ken Ziems and Thomas Frisch.
It's hairy for those guys, but then it's hairy for everything that happens back in the pack. Patrick Hosier gonna find the wall. A lot of brakes locked up there, spinning, and it's been aggressive very early on in this second heat. That first heat was completely and utterly single-filed out very early on. Wasn't really a whole bunch of moves going on. Keep your eyes on that 4th place car. The 22 is, I believe it might be the 17. My apologies.
It's the 12 of Brian Soanes.
There you go, halfway between the two of them.
But Brian, has really been trying to make that high line work more than we've seen so far, and I think Edwards got the wall there. That's opened up the lead battle to Thomas Frisch. A little side-to-side contact there. Edwards trying to make it stick around the high side. Frisch gets loose, has to back out of it, but Edwards sailed it in too deep, and they're still side by side. This battle not going away here. Nobody able to gain a good advantage. I think Frisch is going to ultimately win out, but for now, Edwards able to make it stick, and they're 2x2, 2 lanes back as they're fighting amongst themselves. This is not to transfer. This is just to set your grid for the feature race. So fierce battling. The 12 of Brian Soanes has made 3rd place stick. But now Ken Ziems tries to make it a comeback around the outside. He's going to lose it, and now is in danger of losing that final transfer spot to Cliff Mullen in the 37 car. Oh! Big wiggle there from Ray Fadaruso. He slaps the wall but keeps going. I think Dave Stinson was the one who was around as well in the back. It seemed like everyone just had a slide-on coming out of turn 4 there. Really, really hectic.
You can see the sparks flicking up off the circuit. That's the rear bumpers of those cars making contact. Keep your eyes on the 00 machine on the high side. Look at how low the car gets in the turns. Then watch it lift up once again as they come back out onto the straightaways. That's a phenomenal shot to keep your eyes on, Diggs. Frisch defending for all money. He wants to be leading that outside line of the green come time for the feature. And Zach Edwards, well, he's relinquished the pole spot back into P2. He wants another piece of this.
Really excellent defensive driving from Thomas Frisch. Edwards can get the run off the corner, and he wants to go to the high side with it. The problem is, if he's close enough to Frisch, Frisch has covered off that high lane. So Edwards is going to have to take that run to the inside, and I don't think he wants to do that. I think he knows that he's got the momentum on the high line and wants to make it stick. Now he looks to the inside, but not able to make it happen. Frisch just doing a masterful job of holding position here. And it's going to take a pretty bombastic move from Zach Edwards to make it happen. I don't know that that's something these drivers want to be doing in the heat race.
Well, this is the difference. It's the difference between a guaranteed heat spot and starting P2 on the line, or you make this messed up all of a sudden you're starting way down the queue and you have to qualify through C main into B main. It's not as easy as you might think. I think he's just going to bide his time. The other issue is that he's got Mullins.
Frisch is in the wall hard.
Big shot to the outside fence for Thomas Frisch, and all of a sudden that hands it over to Zachary Edwards, but he's got the 12 machine underneath him, wants to get back to the gas. I don't think this one's decided.
No, well, it wasn't decided before, as we've got more trouble. Cliff Mullins around. There was another driver, Ray Fadaruso, in trouble. And they've come together again, have Mullins and Fadaruso. As the leader goes by, Zach Edwards, the battle now is for second. Brian Sones and Ken Ziem. Brian Kramer now sits in the final transfer spot in that 89 car, ahead of Dave Stinson. Yeah, I don't want to say I saw it coming, because you know, I don't want to blow up my head too much, but you could tell that Frisch was starting to stack up that top four, and I don't know if the tires were coming out away from him, or he just was. The drivers behind were finding some pace, but he was under serious pressure when he lost it into the wall. So props to the drivers behind for making it happen.
Yeah, I think it's the pressure that's gotten to him. He's recognized that he's got control of his heat, and he needs to try and run away, and they're coming. And they're coming at him at a rate of knots. Final lap in the air, white flag has been waved. Zachary Edwards has control by a considerable margin. He is just going to happily accept that one over Sones, Ken Ziems, and Brian Kramer gets the last of the transfer spots. Started on the 10th position of the grid, the final spot in that heat. Slowest qualifier from Heat 2 manages to earn himself a transfer.
Yeah, really well done there. As we've got the consolation coming up for you. No, we don't. We've skipped the consolation races.
Everyone transfers.
Everybody transfers. So a lot of that tension is gone.
You get a transfer. You get a transfer.
That's the way it goes. Yeah. It's as we were saying before. It's nice that you know the structure is so modular, so you can adjust it as you know, based on how many drivers get in. But it makes our lives a little difficult. We've got a 3-minute warm-up, so we are going to throw to commercial from our supporters here for the East Coast Thunder E-Series.
This race, it's as American as Uncle Sam deadlifting 350 while drinking a Busch Light outside of his camper in a national park. It's as American as driving a Chevy to the levee. It's as American as the black number 3 rattling Terry's cage. It's the night race at Bristol, and it's a cutoff race at the NASCAR playoffs. The Bass Pro Shops NRA night race, September 18th, Bristol Motor Speedway. Get your tickets before they are gone. It's Bristol, baby. Can I get a hell yeah?
And we are back here at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. You're watching the East Coast Thunder eSports Summer Showdown presented by Bristol Motor Speedway. Just finishing up the warm-up now, and we will head to the 100-lap main event. So the heats you saw were not actually for transfer spot, but they were to set the grid for the feature race. And we saw some action. We're going to have to see Thomas Frisch, who looked like he was in a position to potentially win heat number 2, fight his way forward from the back. So that's definitely a driver to keep an eye on. A few other drivers got into trouble in heat number 2. Heat 1, surprisingly clean. Well done by the drivers in there to keep it all nice and orderly. But you'd have to believe in the main event, things are going to get pretty crazy, Scott.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just have a look at the drivers. That let's have a look at grid standings from that second heat. I mean, like I said, Brian Kramer went into that heat qualifying off the back row of the grid on the outside of the back row, earns himself the 4th place position in the outside line here. So he's ahead of 6 cars on that outside line that he had to pass throughout the race, throughout. There are issues, there are troubles. He's managed to pick them off. So a guy that's on the ascendancy, on the up and up, throughout the heats, and Ray Federico, I mean, had trouble, but had the least trouble of the guys that had trouble in that heat. Thomas Frisch, we talked about him at length. Cliff Mullins, another guy that was looking good. So P2 from the second heat of the night's actually going to be from the 16th position, the 8th row on the outside of our feature. That's a long way back. That's a lot of cars he's got to pass, and a lot of cars he's got to avoid should anything happen.
Indeed it is. Here is your starting lineup for the main event. Billy Kruska will lead the field to green ahead of Zach Edwards. Kenny Zeems starts third, Brian Soanes in fourth. Keaton Tripp starts fifth, Ken Zeems in sixth, Harold Rothery seventh, Brian Kramer in eighth, a great run there for Brian. Brad Carpenter ninth, Dave Stinson in 10th. Rusty Modesty starts 11th, Russell Peets in 12th. Behind them, it's Ryan Grassi in 13th, Ray Federico in 14th, Matt Zaccardo 15th, Thomas Frisch 16th, Bill Molefield in 17th, Cliff Mullins 18th, James Sylvester II 19th, and Patrick Hosier in 20th. You said something interesting there, Scott, which is that Federico was the least trouble of the guys who had trouble. And I think that's something that's going to come into play here in this race. And I think you're going to see the guy who has the least trouble of the guys who have trouble potentially fighting for a top 5, if not a win.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, 100 laps. It is a lot of laps to get around here. That's 100 chances to find the wall at turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. 100 chances to make mistakes at any particular section of the track. And 100 chances to have run-ins with other cars as well. I mean, these guys right now have only raced against one set of the guys. That's the guys in their line. Everybody else on the high line, if you're in Heat 1, your heat went pretty clean. You're pretty comfortable. You know that you can race around those guys quite easily. The guys on the high line, they've just come out of an intense heat where they've just smashed the wall a couple times. They're probably feeling a little bit down in their confidence. Tempers might be starting to climb. So let that psychological fact sink in a little.
Absolutely. We'll have to check in a little later in the race for some further psychoanalysis from Scott, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I mean, racing is a mind game as much as it is, a physical game. And these drivers, the quick drivers are always thinking. They're always keeping an eye on the situation around them. And stuff like that definitely comes into play. So I joke a little, but your psychoanalysis is not out of place by any means. But we are ready to go green here for the main event. Pace car is rounding turn 3. It'll duck to the inside line in just a moment, and Billy Kruska will step on the gas and lead the field to green in the East Coast Thunder eSports Summer Showdown, presented by Bristol Motor Speedway. And he is gone. Zach Edwards. Oh, that was somebody out of shape in the back. Brian Kramer got way loose. I think he's held it together. No, he hasn't. He's in the wall pretty hard. And there's a car taking out the commitment cone. Will this bring out a yellow? It's Ryan Grassi who's stuck in the pit wall. Meanwhile, at front, they're still side by side for second. That's Kenny Zeems and Zach Edwards there. Kenny slides up in front of Zach.
Yes,
Ryan Grassi's still stuck on the bottom, and finally we get the yellow. Kind of thought that would come a little earlier with Ryan in a pretty dangerous spot there, but the yellow is out now.
I do actually want to say a big shout out to Ryan Grassi. He's managed to recover himself here, so this will be the replay, show us what's going on. A little bit of a bobble, tries to come back up. He's still trying to turn, he's on the apron, he's off the apron, he's on the apron. Cars, basically what's going on there is you've got a car that's grinding along the bottom of the racetrack at the same time as you've got one tire that's not on the banking and one tire that's heavily on the banking. So the car wants to fight you at every single moment that it possibly can, and unfortunately when that happens, that's pretty much the usual result. But big shout out to him for keeping the car where it was and not impacting other people's races by just reversing straight back out into traffic. That's really good level head, good responsibility.
Yeah, certainly. I'm sure Ryan also knows that there's plenty of racing still to go. No fast repairs though, so if he hit that wall not insubstantially, which could affect him for sure. But if we get some yellows, I think he's only a lap down, maybe 2, but a few yellows and he'll cycle around to the lead lap. So not a huge concern for Ryan as long as that car is in one piece. We see a couple drivers making pit stops. Brian Kramer, who had a tremendous heat race, unfortunately was the catalyst behind all that, got up and into the wall, and he's definitely going to have to make some damage repairs. He's in pit lane.
So settling back in here once again, just seeing what's playing out in terms of all of the caution-causing incidents there once again. So now back live. Willem Kruska's got control of the field.
Yeah, and Kramer did stay on the lead lap there, which is crucial. He'll remain on the lead lap. I don't know if he'll have to make another trip down pit lane for further repairs, but he'll at least be on the lead lap. And Ryan Grassi is indeed only 1 lap down. So 1 more yellow and Ryan will be back on the lead lap and up to speed.
In time, 6 laps in. Gotta breathe. Gotta make sure that under these caution flags that you loosen yourself up. You can't afford to get tight on the wheel. It's very, very easy to do. You're in a high intensity situation. The first thing that your body starts to do is you go into fight or flight mode. That adrenaline starts pumping. That means you're gonna push harder on the wheel. You're gonna be forcing things. You're gonna be clenching your muscles a little bit. That's very, very bad in terms of clean, consistent driving. You want to make sure you're smooth. So take a good deep breath right now. Suck all that oxygen back in. Focus on controlling your heart rate a little bit. Loosen up those muscles. Shake it out. That's always a really good way to loosen yourself up as well. So settle down. Go again.
Pace car is off. Billy Kruska is right up in behind it, and he gets a good jump, but doesn't clear Kenny Zeems. And that's probably the first time I think we've seen the lead driver not clear second place into turn 1. Now he is, though. There was a big wiggle in the back from Zach Edwards, but everyone's back pointed in the right direction here. And seems to be going all right. Now's the time. I think some drivers are going to want to settle in and just ride a little. You had your moment of anxiousness, but kind of as you were saying, Scott, that caution, I think, was an opportunity for some of these drivers to take a breather and remind themselves that it's a 100-lap race. They're going to have time to move forward, and for now, they just need to keep their wits about them and settle in for the long haul here.
But more than that, Tyler, they've had an opportunity to go racing with a lot of those guys that are currently around them as well. So, to be perfectly honest with you, they've now assessed their race scenario. So now, yeah, they just want to settle in. They know who they're faster than. They've just got to work towards building those opportunities. 100 laps at any other track, you'd say 100 laps? That's a very, very long race. At Bristol, it's actually not all that long. You kind of want to break it down into quarters and say each quarter is effectively a long term. Keaton Tripp around manages to keep the car running.
Yeah, I think he got the wall with the right rear there, as we see a few team cars in there going slowly. That's Ken Zeems, Matt Zuccardo, and Russell Peets, as the caution is out. So see what happened to Kate. Ooh, it was Zach Edwards got into the back of it. So that was a battle towards the front of the field, I think. Very curious to see if we could see a little bit earlier in that incident. So Keaton got a little loose, had a bit of a wiggle on coming out of turn number 2, and it was Zach Edwards who just went straight into the back of him. But Keaton will be in now for repairs. He's still on the lead lap as it stands at the moment. Only car a lap down is Ryan Grassi, and I believe, if I understood correctly, Ryan will be getting the wave by here, and he'll be back on the lead lap.
Now to 15 laps in, so we're past that 10th of a race distance at this point. You've now settled yourself in. 15% of the way, well, that's the benefit of a 100-lap race. Each lap is 1% of the race, right? So it makes the mathematics easier, statistics easier for us. Who's been making moves right throughout the field? Probably time to take a check in on that. Kenny Zeems up 1 spot. Brian Soane's up 1 spot. That's because you saw Keaton Tripp upside down. Keaton was actually on the move. He started P12 for the feature, got himself up into the ascendancy, was actually driving a phenomenal race up until that point. Well, reset, make sure the car's ready to go again, get back on the move. P18 up to P11, Cliff Mullins. We said that he was a little out of sync with where he potentially should be. He's now made himself all the way back up to P11. So a few drivers that are on the move. Patrick Hosier from 20th up to 15th as well. So a few drivers continuing their climbs. Zach Edwards has lost a couple spots there. And he looks nervous in the car, to be perfectly honest with you, Tyler.
Yeah, he's had some bigger moments than some of the drivers we've seen for sure. He did end up winning his heat, but don't forget it was only after Tom Frisch had some trouble. So, you know, obviously he's got pace. He's running in 4th still, but perhaps not as comfortable with that car as some of the other drivers we've seen out there today, sitting looking at the back of Brian Sohn's machine. Speaking of Thomas Frisch, a bit surprised to see him still a bit back in the pack. He's only been able to move 3 spots forward, and more than 3 drivers have made pit stops already. So that's not necessarily kind of what we expected from Thomas. I think we kind of figured he would be moving forward with a bit quicker pace, but at the same token, we haven't really had that many green flag corners to make moves happen. So if we can get a longer green flag run, I think you're going to see Thomas start to work his way up a little bit.
To be honest with you, I'm actually comfortable that he's only moved those few spots up. That says to me he's looking after the car. His goal is to get out there, get some clean racing in, and still have a car together at the back end of the race. I think he's got a really strong shot. Look, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on him just sort of see where he's moving through the field. But yeah, I'd back him in at this point in time.
Getting ready to go back green here, the field 2 by 2. It'll be Billy Kruska, as it has been all race so far, who leads the charge. Kenny Zeems to his outside. Kenny got a good restart last time. We'll see if he can do it again. Billy sitting in the middle of the track, trying to get that angle. Ooh, Billy waited a while there. Kenny might be at risk of a black flag, although he did back it off before they got to the line. But that was quite a bit different from Billy Kruska. Obviously, seeing what Kenny did on the last restart, knew he had to change it up a little bit, but Kenny is on the move here. Although Zach Edwards now around the outside, and it's exactly what we were talking about before the start, Scott, as Rusty Modesty has had some trouble. You know, Kenny Zeems got trapped in behind Billy Kruska, and that's when Zach Edwards was able to make that outside line work. He got the big run on Kenny Zeems up into 2nd place, but now he's in trouble because Billy Kruska can block that whole racetrack like we saw Tom Frisch do in the 2nd heat against Zach Edwards.
Did you hear Zach roll out of the throttle there? That is because he's worried about Frisch at the moment. He's not confident that he can make the move and make it cleanly. So that's good. What that says to me is that Zach has got pace over the long run. He's comfortable settling back in. I think he restarted from the 4th position on that last restart. He's already made moves, and I just heard on the radio there was a wreck in the background. Is that Keaton again?
It's Keaton Tripp again, and the 05 of Bill Molefield is also involved. It's the 2nd time Keaton's been up off the ground today.
Oh.
Yeah, just, oh, and Ryan Grassi involved again as well. So everybody who's been a part of the incidents already getting caught up in that one. You know, that's one of those that's tough to call. Obviously, there was room to the outside of Bill Molefield, but at the same time, you know, it's tough to judge when you're coming off the wall at Bristol. Oh, that's quite the onboard from Ryan Grassi there, but, you know, it's just so tough to judge, you know, where those cars are around you, where your proximity to the wall is. So it's tough to put blame on Bill Molefield for that one, but certainly Keaton Tripp didn't do anything particularly wrong. He was giving plenty of space to the outside and got caught up in that.
I mean, what's Keaton Tripp's alternative? Like, at the end of the day, you've got to say, what's the alternative? What could he have done to prevent that accident there? He's still going to maintain his race pace. He's still going to try and make the move. For him to make that move happen, he's got to drift up the track and allow the car to sort of run its way up there as he gets back to the gas, he gets back to the throttle and comes off the corner. He can paint the apron. He can basically run the car at the bottom of the track, but that's not the fastest way around. That doesn't look after your tires. So I think he's doing every single right to be where he is on the track. I think both drivers haven't done much wrong there, to be perfectly honest. It's just a racing incident. They're just racing hard. They're out there. They're having a go. So Something I did want to note was on that last green flag run, I did actually keep my eyes back towards Thomas Frisch. I did see him make a few more moves, so he's up to P12 now. He's grabbed a couple more spots, so keep your eyes again. He's coming to the front. It's taken him some time, but I think he's again. I think he's got the right mindset. He's being patient and he's looking for the opportunities.
Absolutely. I'm very curious to see what Zach Edwards does on this restart here. We saw him really challenging Billy Kruska, but it just seems like it's so tough to make something happen on the race leader. And what we were seeing before the yellow there was exactly what we saw in Heat 2 with Edwards and Frisch, where by virtue of where Edwards gets the runs, you know, from the high line, you get the momentum coming out of the corner. But if you're close enough to Billy Kruska to make a move happen, you're going to have to cut it to the inside with that run. And in doing that, you scrub off some speed, and it makes it tougher to get alongside of Billy Kruska because he can cover off that outside run. I think if Billy were to try and stay to the inside and defend the inside, we'd see Zach able to work his way around the outside to the race lead. But the way it is right now, because Billy has that clean air and free space to move up and down the track, it's going to be really, really tough to make a move happen outside of the restart.
Yeah, so it's gonna be on Zach here. He's got to really go with Billy here. And I mean, if you have a look at the last couple of restarts, the car that's been on the outside of that front row, Billy has controlled the restarts exceptionally well. I think Zach's first opportunity here, or first instinct, is I've got to cover off that car in behind. I've got to make sure that I slot back into P2. Once I'm there, settle in, build the run, and time it. It's all about timing. He's got the pace to make the move. And yeah, the covering at the lines is very, very difficult for him to make the move, but it's about the timing. When does he get that run? Great launch from both the front two rows.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a car spinning in the background. That was Dave Stinson, I believe. Or was it Ryan Grassi? No, it was Dave Stinson. We stay green at the moment. Can Zach Edwards get to the front before yellow comes out? Around the outside. This is what I was saying. If he could just get there, he's got that momentum. He's got the pace on the high line. I don't know that the tires are bad enough on Kruska yet to seal the deal, though. Oh, he pokes his nose to the outside. Yeah, he's hanging on. This is very tight at the front, but I think Edwards.
He's got to run. He's right there now. He's nearly side by side with him. If he can just pinch him down, he's got a chance here.
Well, the problem seems to be that he can get alongside with the run, but he just can't run that line.
He's ahead. He's got the nose ahead.
He's got the nose ahead there on Billy Kruska, though. And now, Billy caught the apron there and slides up, and that seals the deal for Zach Edwards, who is clear away into the race lead. Now, I'll be very interested to see if Edwards moves down or he keeps running that high line that's been working for him here, as Kenny Zeems tries to make the pass happen on Billy Kruska. But you see, just as we were talking about, these tires starting to get a little worn, that outside line starting to come into play here. No longer is it a single groove racetrack. That top side is somewhere where you can make a move happen, or in Billy Kruska's case as it stands at the moment, play some defense.
And if you have a look at that's a big one. There's a lot of cars involved in this.
And I think that was James Sylvester. Came onto the scene in a hurry and didn't have anywhere to go. So on board with Sylvester here. I think the accident happened well in front of him. Cliff Mullins, Matt Zaccardo, Harold Rothery, Ryan Grassi all involved. That was curious.
Okay, so in that position, he's got two. The reason why that's happened is he's going for the brakes. If he just rolls off of the throttle there, he can cut it down to the inside. So there's a couple things. Bristol's one of those interesting tracks. You've got there you go, heavy contact from the back.
Yeah, so that was Rothery turning Cliff Mullins, I believe. Unfortunately for Matt Zaccardo, he seems to have gotten the worst of it. That car is smoking heavily. But all of those drivers on pit lane, and I believe all going a lap down here. So that leaves 11 cars on the lead lap at the moment. Sorry, no, Cliff Mullins still on the lead lap, as is Keaton Tripp. Mullins is back out. So we'll have some 12 or 13 cars on the lead lap when everything's said and done.
Can we just can we get Cliff Mullins a nickname of Cone Destroyer? I don't think I've seen him drive anywhere near a cone under whenever he's been near one and not opt to drive through the cone.
Certainly had his eye out for him, but luckily stays on the lead lap, although he's dove into the pits again. Clearly still has some repairs to do to that car. Looks like he's taking tires here. And Ryan Grassi is finally back on the lead lap of the race. Nope, sorry, forgive me. He still sits a lap down. The first car a lap down though. And this is going to be a lap down for Cliff Mullins. So, tough break for Cliff, but just a little too much damage. I don't think he's going to beat him out. Yep, they're going to make him wait there.
Yep.
Don't want to exit a closed pit. So Cliff cutting it a little too close there. Now, that was someone definitely exiting a closed pit. That was Bill Mulfield, I believe. Interesting there. Now, for the first time this race, somebody other than Billy Kruska is going to be controlling the restart. So very interesting to watch what Zach Edwards does here. We still got the lights on the pace car, so it's going to be at least one more lap.
Wave rounds just issued to Ryan Grassi as well. Get him a lap back at this point in time.
Yeah, so, Ryan, been waiting a little bit for that one.
I think he'd actually made contact with one of the cars that was spinning, which is why he wasn't actually presented with the Lucky Dog automatically. So opting to wave him around as well. Definitely going to have a couple cars down on horsepower at this point in time. So, again, it's about responsibility back on the drivers. Now, if you're coming up on one of those cars, you've got to take it easy, pick off your moment. Opportunity is going to present itself. It shouldn't take you too long. You just got to be patient, make sure you position yourself. Guy that's getting laps, if he's just going to be confident, clear, and concise with his body language, stacks them up from Zach Edwards. What a launch.
That was a fantastic restart. Oh, Ray Fataruso nearly caused a massive carnage there. Trying to stick his nose in 3 wide on the restart. That was a silly move if he hadn't backed out of it. But Edwards got a fantastic jump, and he is clear of Billy Kruska. Now he cuts to the inside here. Billy's going to try the outside line that Zach made work on him. But Zach knows that game, and he is going to certainly cover that outside line out of the corner. Does so expertly. Kenny Zeems trying to make something happen on Kruska for second place here. Now, the interesting aspect that we haven't covered at all is I don't think anyone with a clean car has stopped yet, which means everyone is still on the tires that they started this race with. And honestly, they don't seem to be doing too bad. So it'll be very interesting to see if and when drivers start to make that call to come to pit lane to make a tire change onto their second set of tires. And if we see anyone take one set of tires the whole distance, we've had enough caution, it's not out of the question.
The big issue here is that when you come down pit road to take tires, you are sacrificing all of that track position. I'm going to be honest, I think I'm going the distance on one set of tires.
Sorry. Oh, we've got trouble. I was going to say, I don't imagine we'd see anyone pit under green. I'm talking if there's a caution.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Do we see pit people stay out or not? That was 31 of Brad Carpenter who got stuck in pit lane there. Didn't quite catch who he was caught up with. There's a chance it was Brian Kramer, who sits in 4th place, which is a great recovery for Brian. No, it was the 12 car of Brian Soanes. The other Brian in a yellow car was involved. And just a nudge from the 31 to the 12. Good job by Brian to hang on to it. And good job there as well by Brad Carpenter to keep out of harm's way. But Billy Kruska is taken to the inside now. Zach defending to the outside. But Billy's opened himself up to attack from Kenny Zeems, who goes around the outside, trying to grab that second spot as he has been all night.
It's aggressive, it's fighting. I was actually going to say at some point, I think one of the worst. Oh, big contact there for Zings into the outside barrier. That is going to cost him. I would expect that he's going to have to come down. Next caution, I'd expect him on pit road to take tires just to reset that one. I think Kuzka is going to be in the same sort of a boat. I think the worst possible thing, and Zach Edwards has just had a bubble as well. The tires are wearing.
Well, we've got lap traffic is the big thing here. They work their way around the lap car of Cliff Mullins, I believe. These cars are pretty durable, and I'm not certain that Kenny Seams will have done too much harm to his race car there with that contact into the wall. It remains to be seen, but at the moment, hanging on well at second place. Those bull bars do a decent job of keeping the toes in line as long as you don't really knock the wall down, but it remains to be seen. And remember, of course, with no fast repairs, that's a pretty big sacrifice if you're going to come down and make repairs to your car, especially seeing as Kenny seems to be holding his own with the race leader, Zach Edwards.
Yeah, and I think Kuzka just burned up his tires. I think the worst possible thing that could have happened from Kuzka was he's been defending over the first sort of half of this race from multiple different cars that have all had a go at him. Now, that means that those cars that have had a go at him, yeah, they're going to put a little bit more pressure on their tires. They're going to a little bit more wear. But because it's spread out over multiple cars rather than being one, that's why Zach Edwards right now is a lot stronger.
Certainly the case. In addition, you know, we've talked about the differing lines, and Zach Edwards has been running that mid-high line the whole race pretty much, trying to get around Billy Kruska. So you wonder if, just by virtue of running the low line throughout the entirety of this one so far, if that hasn't made the wear a little worse on Billy Kruska's tires. He's hanging on fine in third place. He's got a decent gap over Ray Federica, who's moved up into fourth, ahead of Ken Zeems and Brian Kramer, who we see from the onboard of Tom Frisch, who is still trying to work his way back up. He's up 8 spots into 8th place as it stands right now. Looks like he's trying to find his way around both the 06 of Rusty Modesty and the 89 of Brian Kramer at this moment.
So Kramer actually had a small bit of contact on the outside wall. And the issue, I think, for Thomas is the two cars that are directly ahead of him are so similar on pace that it's difficult for them to overtake, run off the bottom. All of a sudden shuffles the 06 towards the top side. So Frisch has got an opportunity now to try and get some moves done, but he had to be a little bit patient and let them fight it out. He couldn't do anything for a couple laps there.
You know, it's a big moment when you get a reaction out of producer Marco, and that was a big moment for Rusty Modesty right in front of Thomas Frisch. Frisch did a great job to keep off of the rear bumper of the 06 car, but unfortunately had to get out of it hard enough. He wasn't able to complete the pass, but that was a hairy, scary moment for Thomas Frisch and Rusty Modesty, but they both continue on. And just like that, we're past halfway. In fact, we're closing in on 2/3 distance here of the main event at Bristol Motor Speedway. This is definitely the longest green flag run we've had so far. And Zach Edwards has not really been able to pull away from Kenny Zeems out front. Here is that battle, though, we were just watching. Definitely seems like Kramer's a bit slower than these two behind him, but they haven't been able to find a way around yet, as Modesty sticks it to the outside. Kramer stuck on the bottom, doesn't have the pace, and is not going to be able to defend this one. I think Modesty and Frisch are clear now.
They are now, and it was Kramer actually got a fair bit loose there. Tires lighting up at the rear. Something else that just come through the in-game chat as well is that the drivers are starting to reach their maximum fuel limits. So one of the quirks of fixed setup racing is that whilst the fuel tank on board of these cars, you can adjust it within the iRacing setup. Whatever is on a fixed setup in terms of fuel, that's what you start the race with. If the fuel tank is 100%, but you've only got enough for 10 laps, you'll only have enough in the tank for 10 laps, because that's what the setup had. So I think that we may potentially, if this goes any longer, then we're a shot of seeing green flag pit stops.
That would certainly shake things up, no doubt about it, and potentially put some of the drivers who have had issues in the catbird seat, because if you're one lap down, you're going to lose less than that, or you're going to lose more than that, rather, with green flag pit stops, as we see Thomas Frisch trying to get by Rusty Modesty here as they come up the lap car of Cliff Mullins once again. Cliff goes another lap down to these two.
So that last shot, unfortunately for Cliff, has just about done enough of a number on that car to basically rule him out of contention. But then again, have a look at a few of the cars that have made pit stops. I think Kramer's made multiple pit stops at this point in time, so I think he's quite good. He's potential. Keaton Tripp, remember, has been to pit lane, but he's underpowered at this point in time. I think he might be fuel saving a little bit as well. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on the throttle percentages of our lead couple cars as well, just to find out. Here's Willem Kruska right now.
Yeah, we've got green flag pit stops. Kramer has only been in once on lap 4, the first yellow, so he's not going to be able to go much longer. But interesting that both Kenny Zeems and Billy Kruska are in before Zach Edwards. That's a bit surprising to me that Zach, even in the lead of this race, has been able to stretch it. But then again, we saw him having to lift in behind Billy Kruska, so clearly he saved a little bit of fuel here. Now the question is, how far can he go? We've got a lot of cars. You mentioned Keaton Tripp, a lap down and down on power, but currently higher than any of the cars having to make green flag pit stops right now. So that's going to be very interesting. Into the pits comes Edwards. Who was that who missed the pit lane ahead of him?
I don't think they were trying to miss the pit lane. I actually think they were rejoining the track from the pit lane.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It could well have been. Now, of course, Bristol is unique in that under green flag, some drivers are pitted on the backstretch, some on the front stretch. You'd better know where your pit stall is under green flag pit stops. There might be few enough cars that everybody's on the front stretch, but that could also play into things. But ooh, Billy's in the wall again. That's not going to help his cause. But there is Zach Edwards. So those fresh tires have really helped Billy Kruska jump Zach Edwards in the pit lane. The undercut in full effect there. So those two are now behind Keaton Tripp by about half a lap or so. And that is what will be the race lead. Ray Fadaruso saving fuel here. He and Ryan Grassi are the two drivers who have not been down pit lane. Excuse me, Ryan Grassi has, I believe. But
as Fadaruso, I get the feeling Fadaruso might have been down on pit lane under one of the cautions earlier. Well, there you go.
Not by my timing. This is his first stop. No. So Grassi
will have enough. Oh, Willie.
Yeah, Grassi has not been down pit lane yet by my timing, and he now heads that way. So Keaton Tripp leads this race once he gets by Ryan Grassi. As you mentioned, though, he's down on power. He's not running lap time anywhere near what the leaders are doing. So it'll be very interesting to see how this shakes out. The other interesting thing to note is whether there were any drivers who took tires. I don't think there were. 12-second stops as we've got a yellow, and that is going to trap some big names laps down. Ooh, that was Zach Edwards. That was some of our contenders in that one. So Billy Kruska was coming up on the 89 of Brian Kramer here. We ride on board with Edwards. Edwards in behind the 31 of Brad Carpenter.
Up ahead of him.
It was the 31 and the 89, I think, who had gotten together, and poor Zach Edwards had nowhere to go. So there's the 89. You can see Billy Kruska there behind him. This would be Billy lapping the 89 of Kramer. Oh, and Kruska just turned him.
I'm wondering, I think the crucial, there's a couple of angles here that are going to tell a different story. So that angle, you says, from that angle, yeah, it definitely looks like he turned him. I think there's a chance that Kramer might have pinched him just a little bit if we go to the onboard from the 17. That's going to tell the story, I think.
I think that's a...
Yeah, he comes down a mile. Billy's on the bottom section of the track.
That's a tough call. I mean, Billy definitely was moving up while the 89 was coming down. I don't know that there's blame to be placed, but yeah, I think the 89 was holding pretty steady there. Not you know.
Well, I mean, it's difficult because Kruska's got to try and make his way back through the field, right? He's got one of the quickest cars in the race. So he's trying to shove the nose anywhere he possibly can, because once the spotters of all the other cars come over the radio and say, hey, you've got a car low, all of a sudden they're going to try and allow more space. So it's cheeky, it's aggressive, but that's how you got to drive if you want to win these sorts of races.
So Keaton Tripp currently leads from Billy Kruska, Thomas Frisch, Kenny Zeems, Patrick Hosier, and that might be Well, I'm showing Kenny Zeem stopped on track. That's Ken Zeems. Kenny Zeems is not on track at the moment, so that's big. Kenny Zeems potentially picking up damage or some other reason he is out of this one. So that's 2 of our main contenders. In fact, the top 2 before the pit sequence, Kenny Zeems and that right side is quite bent up.
Yeah. So he actually was still circulating at that point in time. He just wasn't visible. So that's the results there. Keaton Tripp's going to maintain the lead of this race, but he's down on horsepower, so he's a big shot at losing a bunch of spots on this next restart. Billy Kruska's going to be restarting off of the P2 spot, as far as I can tell at this point in time. Frisch from 16th on the grid, now sitting P3.
And we're only going to have, if my timing is correct, 5 cars on the lead lap. That being Keaton Tripp, Billy Kruska, Thomas Frisch, Ken Zeems, and Patrick Hosier. Brian Soane's the first car 1 lap down. Just caught out with the pit sequence there, which is exactly what Keaton Tripp would have been trying to do, and it worked out great for him. This is going to be an interesting restart. Light's still on the pace car, so it'll be at least 1 more lap. This is going to be very interesting to watch. I have to believe that Billy's going to get around Keaton pretty quick here, but you never know. Keaton might be able to hang on. There's not a ton left in this race, and he might get lucky knowing that yellows breed yellows. If he can just hang on for a little bit, you might get a yellow that takes us to the end of this race. So definitely not out of this one yet is Keaton Tripp, but this caution certainly didn't help his case.
Just going to have a quick look at the lap times from Keaton Tripp. So his best so far in the sessions of 14.424. He's got pace. I think one of the biggest issues right now, look, he's a second off pace, so he's gonna be disappearing. He's gonna be like 5th or so after 1 lap, and even more after that. So I don't think he's got a huge shot. There was a lot of wave arounds there, so a lot of cars back on the lead lap.
And Keaton Tripp is gone, so he's got the lead at least into turn 1. As Thomas Frisch got a good jump, he's battling Billy Kruska here. You wonder as well if potentially Keaton was just kind of saving his tires, saving his stuff. The 12 car is in the wall. That is Brian Soanes, the first car 1 lap down, battling to stay the first car 1 lap down, but now, that was somebody in the wall hard behind them. That's going to be a yellow, I have to believe. I think that might have been Ray Fadaruso. It was. Ray upside down to the inside. If he doesn't reset before they come around, that should be a yellow. But he has cleared, and we stay green. Riding on board with Ken Zeems. Now this gets tough to call because there are lapped cars in between some of the front runners. There's a little nudge there. Yeah, you kind of saw that coming with the pace that the 26 car was carrying, as the 12 wants to earn his lap back here. Looking around the outside of the 54. Ryan Grassi is also in this one. He's back 1 lap down after all that. But they are side by side, 2 lanes deep. The 2 cars behind are a lap down. 2 cars in front are your race leaders, and Frisch looks like he's going to take this one from Kruska potentially. He's got that inside line hooked up on those fresh tires.
Yeah,
Kruska's struggling to make the high line momentum work, and Frisch is clear.
I think one of the biggest issues Kruska right now is getting back to that throttle very aggressively. If you have a look at the line that he's running, he's in the marbles up there when he's trying to get back to the power. This is a big issue. These lap cars are trying to earn their lap back. They've got every right to do so, but they're now battling for a race lead in the mix.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation to be in. And not only are they battling for their lap back, but they're battling for position too. This is for spots within the top 10. Ryan Grassi currently holds 6th place ahead of the 12 car of Brian Soanes, and Kruska's lost out big. He really was not able to make that high line work. In fact, I wonder if he got the wall again because he has dropped off majorly. That's Grassi in the wall in front of the race leader. That slowed the race leader down. I don't know that there's much damage to Frisch, but that really hurt him and brought Kruska right back in it. Not only that, it brings Brian Soanes into the battle for 6th again. Those 2 now on the lead lap. There's Patrick Hosier, who currently sits 3rd just by keeping it clean. Good job him. He's actually our biggest mover, even with Frisch starting back in 16th. and leading. Patrick Hosier is up 17 spots after he started last. So a big effort there from Patrick Hosier to stay clean and keep it running. Frisch still seems to have the pace advantage over Kruska, and I think it's going to be a tall order for Billy in these final 3 laps to make it happen.
And what was I saying at the start of the race? You got to be patient. I still believed that whole way through that Frisch would have a chance. He was patient. He made sure that every single move, he made it clean, he made it count, and he was conservative with his car. And look at what he's been able to do with that.
The white flag is out as Kruska is battling with another lapped car. I think that's essentially Kenny Ziem. It's one of that team car battling for track position, but not position on track. As Thomas Frisch crosses the line, he is your race winner at the East Coast Thunder eSports Summer Showdown, presented by Bristol Motor Speedway. Fantastic drive there from Tom. Billy Kruska brings it home second. Patrick Hosier third. It is Ken Ziems in fourth. Keaton Tripp rounding out your top 5. We'll get the full results for you in a moment, but I think first we're going to get some donuts from Thomas Frisch. Just waiting for everybody to cross the line. Oh, had a little trouble getting them started there, but Thomas Frisch is celebrating in proper Bristol Motor Speedway fashion with some big old donuts.
Gonna get ourselves, what is this, Polish victory laps? That's the term, isn't it? Sweet, there you go. I have learned something in my a year and a little bit on iRacing. See, the thing is, you don't understand, you don't interact with NASCAR, oval racing in general outside of the US. So for those of us who are getting involved in this sort of stuff, iRacing's by and large where you start to learn about it. But what I've seen tonight from Thomas Frisch would have been a successful drive on any course, road courses included. Why? Yeah, he had some troubles in the heats. Yeah, he had some troubles getting himself to the front. But once he was there, he'd looked after his tires, he'd looked after the car. That's the biggest factor. So many guys tonight wanted to get aggressive. That's fine. I have no problems with them getting aggressive. But they made risky moves. They put themselves at risk at multiple different periods throughout the race. Frisch has had a very low risk race, and he's had the high reward that goes along with that.
Absolutely. We've got our race results on screen for you. We already ran through the top 5. Behind that, Ryan Grassi is 6th, Brian Sones in 7th, Russell Peets in 8th, Bill Molefield in 9th, Ray Fadaruso in 10th, despite being on his lid towards the end of the race. Kenny Ziems comes home 11th, Rusty Modesty in 12th, Brian Kramer in 13th, Zach Edwards 14th, Cliff Mullins 15th, Brad Carpenter 16th, Matt Zuccardo in 17th, Harold Rothery in 18th, James Sylvester the second in 19th, and Dave Stinson in 20th. I think we've got time to interview our race winner. So I am going to pull into the booth. If I can just grab it. There it is. Our race winner, Thomas Frisch.
How's it going?
Well, Thomas, that was quite the test of patience and endurance for you there today. Obviously, we saw your trouble in the heat race that set you back for the feature, but you certainly made it work by the end there.
Yeah, the heat there just caught a little bit too much of the banking at the wrong time. I was running a pretty late apex and didn't work out for me there, but I don't know a whole lot about patience and the feature there. I was just getting pretty flustered behind some people there, but it worked out in the end.
Maybe not at the most patient drive you've ever seen, but it certainly was an effective drive. You can't just drive it through the guys that are in front. You got to let them have their battle, even if you are faster, and that's the important part. You looked after the car, you looked after the hardware, and I think the results, the proof is in the pudding, really.
Yeah, I got stuck behind the 06 and I think the 89 for like 25 laps, and I was like, come on, just one of you slip up, then those green flag pit stops came in, and that really shook everything.
Yeah, were we going into this expecting green flag pit stops? Obviously, I think everybody knew there were going to be some cautions tonight, but that long green flag run seemed to catch some people by surprise. I don't know that's how anyone expected, certainly not us, expected it to shake out going into it.
I don't think anyone expected a long green flag run there at the end. That's really what got it, because I think I mean, I was saving more fuel than Kruska was, and Kruska was saving fuel, and I wasn't. So I don't know how that one worked out, but yeah, that long green flag run there is what really shook everything up.
What were your thoughts on the fixed setup there? Because obviously we saw kind of the line move from the inside to the outside as the grip wore off. We saw some drivers really battling with it, and some drivers who seemed to be quite smooth. So, how did you find a handle on it? Did you have any issues?
Well, my first lap here, and I don't know how long was the practice, so I kind of got thrown in the deep end here. But initially, when I got in, I felt like it was a little tight, and there's a bump down at 1. If you hit that, you go up the hill. So just over the course of the run, when the line kind of moved up, I was able to enter high and then exit low, which is what really got my speed. That's how I got around Kruska there for a while. Overall, it's a pretty good setup. It just takes a while to come in and get a little racy.
Excellent. Well, Thomas, you did a fantastic job there today, and a really solid effort on the win. Do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
I gotta give a shout out to my buddy Kruska. Glad he put this event in, and glad he talked me into running it. Obviously, it paid off for me, and I got to beat Kruska, so.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations once again on your race win in the East Coast Thunder eSports Summer Showdown. Thomas Frisch.
All right, thank you guys.
We have one more interview for you tonight. Excuse me, and that is our runner-up and race organizer, Billy Kruska. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, Billy, I guess it just wasn't meant to be there for you at the end. It seemed like you had a pretty good hand on it for a lot of the race, and obviously Zach got by you at some point in the mid stages, but ultimately second place. Is that a little bit of disappointment in there for you?
I mean, not really, but kind of, just because I guess I must have had damage or something from the last wreck that caused me to like lose power or something, because I realized after that wreck and when that yellow came on stuff, like as soon as we had the restart, I was just slow and I have no idea what happened other than that wreck. That, again, I apologize to I don't remember who it was, but I apologize in the game, but I apologize to him too. I didn't mean to take him out, obviously, especially with the pit stops happening. But I don't know, I'm alright with the second place though after all that.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, yeah, we talked to Thomas about it. The green flag pit stop seemed to catch everybody by surprise. Did you expect to need to make a stop under green, or was that a bit of unplanned on-the-fly strategy changing?
I kind of figured it because me and Thomas were talking about it. I guess something in iRacing where they set it up to a limited amount of fuel, and then once you pit, you can get all the fuel. So I kind of figured, I knew we were gonna have to pit at least once, but
difficult race right throughout the night. We saw multiple caution periods, guys wrapped up in stuff at the back, but it looked like it was a completely different race up in front. It looked like it was actually quite a fun race. You were having to maneuver the car very specifically in the early runs to make sure that you kept the field in the chase and not you having to chase them down. Do you feel like you maybe wore the tires up a little bit more than you were expecting?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even check what the percent was. I wish I did, but even after the pit stop, it still seemed a little bit more on like the tight side. So it definitely, especially with everything that I've hit today, it definitely wore it out more.
Well, Billy, obviously it's a big effort for you to put this event on, and we love having you here on Apex Racing TV. Do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to besides the fine folks at Bristol Motor Speedway before we let you go?
Yeah, them for coming on and sponsoring. You guys for broadcasting. Everyone that showed up tonight. Everyone that watched. I'm probably forgetting something, but I'm sure I'll think of it after. But that's all that I can think of right now.
Awesome. Well, congrats on your second place. and thanks for putting the event on once again. Billy Kruska, everybody.
Thank you.
And that'll just about do it for us here at Apex Racing TV. Thanks again to everybody who is watching. If you are watching, that means you probably already know where to find us. But if you don't, you can find us on YouTube, Apex Racing TV on YouTube. Also, please give us a follow on your favorite social media platforms. Whatever it may be, there's a pretty good chance we're on it. I don't think we have a MySpace page, unfortunately, but everything else, you should be able to find us under Apex Racing TV. Give us a like, give us a follow. You'll get to see all the highlights and get reminders for all of the races coming up. But that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in from myself, from everyone else in the booth, Scott and Marco. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you next time.
This race, it's as American as Uncle Sam deadlifting 350 while drinking a Busch Light outside of his camper in a national park. It's as American as driving a Chevy to the levee. It's as American as the black number 3 rattling Terry's cage. It's the night race at Bristol, and it's a cutoff race at the NASCAR playoffs. The Bass Pro Shops NRA night race, September 18th, Bristol Motor Speedway. Get your tickets before they are gone. It's Bristol, baby. Can I get a hell yeah?